Hey, Mike.
Hi, Chris. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Real good. Real good. Real
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what's it called? So a lot of tonight's kind of there's more to talk about tonight. Thank God. The past couple of weeks there hasn't been as much, and it's been getting a little. I've been going crazy over here, Mike. There's a lot to talk about. I'm pumped for the season, and I think the biggest thing for us right now is the fact that the Flyers got Frost signed. It feels like every time I've had you on for the past maybe like 6 or 7 weeks, I've mentioned that he still was waiting for a contract, and finally he gets one. Um, Signs 2 years, 2.1 million. Just kind of quick thoughts on the deal, and then we'll kind of get into the player a little bit.
Well, yeah, I know it's hard when you get in some of these negotiations where, kind of like nobody knows really what to do with you a little bit because you're finished very strong, but you haven't proven enough. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like where the Flyers are in a spot, and they're like, "Well, we love you, but we just can't find it worth paying you yet for your smaller body of work." And the player's like, "Well, I'm going to be a good player, and just trust me." And then it's kind of like, well, who's
Yeah.
it's the chicken and the egg, but he certainly started off very slowly this year, and then came around with a great second half, especially when he got with Tippett, JVR there, and and so that's great to see. And I mean, I think that as a player, that is like super exciting, to finish the season on such a high, and it makes your summer training go so much better. And you're kind of seeing that, the future. You're coming in with a different mentality, coming to camp, not just trying to make the team, but really improve on what you've already started, and so at the same time, though, it's a lot of questions all summer and people and wondering and daydreaming. But I mean, it's going to get done. And actually, I mean, it's like the same things in a lot of things in life, man. Once you get down to the time crunch, and you want to get things done, then that's what's going to get done. And that's the reality for restricted free agents, is that they're up against the clock a little bit, and you get dealt with when you get dealt with. Nobody's going anywhere. Flyers know it. He knows it. Nobody's going anywhere, so we'll just get it done.
Right. No, exactly. And again, I think it's a great point because I look at this whole thing with Frost too, and it's a good deal for him because and really for the team. I guess we'll start with the team. This is like the third player that they've kind of locked up on this like short term type of deal. We've talked about it before with Cates. You've mentioned it that like Ryan Poehling could be playing for a type of contract like this. There's a lot of little things that that the Flyers are kind of doing here where they're just kind of getting these guys at like the right type of deals to kind of see what they are, because the Flyers don't know what they are yet. And I think you're getting these type of players at those sort of deals. Frost previously was on a 1 year 800,000 type of deal. He gets a raise obviously, and I feel he deserved that. I mean, he didn't have the best start to the season. Torts was kind of comparing him to a toilet seat, and there were some other issues with his play, and I think more so his usage. I actually did some a lot of like underlying like numbers and research on him recently, and the one thing that I found out was he played on 38 different lines last year. And for you, obviously, from playing in NHL, that's a lot of
Yeah.
different combinations. And only played on one for I think the longest stretch was 30 games. And that was towards the end of the year. That was the Van Riemsdyk and Tippett line, so where he actually ended up producing. So that kind of shows you a little bit there where he plays with more guys consistently. He can score more, and he also had more points towards the end of the year, stuff like that too. Just kind of going off of that too, Mike. For Frost, where do you kind of see him as a player? Like a lot of people, I think, are in the middle because they don't really know what he is yet. Smaller type of center, can shoot. He has the ability to shoot. He has a lot of skill. Put up a hell of a lot of points in junior. Where do you kind of see him right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question if you get off to a good start, when you get put in
Yeah.
that role. You talk about, I mean, 38 different line combinations is a lot, right? And it's really hard to build continuity with players and kind of get your feet under you, confidence. You're asking yourself, how do I fit in on this team? And I'm telling you, a little bit of boost, like a little bit of finishing strong at the end of the year, and getting a decent bridge contract to everybody figure out who you are as a player. And at the same time, it's the team saying, "Oh, we'll give you a couple bucks, keep you happy here. We'll take care of you a little bit." Now, we're not going to back the truck up to the Brinks truck up to you yet, but it's something that you're probably on a pretty short list. So, I mean, I don't know. And again, he's proven that he can play with high-end players, right? So,
Right.
probably give him a shot in that. And Torts obviously is giving that shot. That means he likes him defensively. That means he's playing a good two-way game. And if Couturier comes back, and depending on how healthy he is, that probably has a lot to do with Morgan Frost and what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Obviously, comes back, and he's healed up really nicely and gets his feet under him. Now he's not the youngest guy anymore, but which is weird to say because he was a baby, when I played with him my last little bit. But he was a Morgan Frost type guy back in the day. But that'll have a lot to do with it. Is Sean Couturier a block on him? Like a block in the lineup so that he takes all the good ice and doesn't let him get as much. If Couturier goes down, then obviously Frost rolls can pick up, and probably he moves up the lineup a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because it feels like the Flyers, they have some good center depth kind of brewing. I mean, like really depending on where Michkov or Gauthier play, and I'm talking and really far down the line here. Like they have the ability to kind of have a good mix of guys down the middle, and obviously, like that's probably the biggest thing that you need to win in the Cup is down the middle. I mean, like obviously you need everything, and goaltending is everything is so important to win a Stanley Cup, but I think down the middle is probably one of the main things that you need. And I think a guy for Frost to put up 46 last year, I'm curious what you think about this, Mike. I could see him getting 70 points this year. I know it's kind of a long shot. I just look at the skill and more of the numbers, I think, that I was mentioning before on the underlying stuff when he's played with a stretch of guys for a longer period of time. And that's also considering if the Flyers are healthy. I could see him getting around 65, 70-ish points. Is that something you could see or maybe not?
Well, I think, doing a little bit looking back on it too, he did not have a lot of power play points, right?
Right.
So the only way you're getting to 65 or 70 is getting ample points on the power play, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Part of that, which you should hope for. And again, Couturier, I know is a big PK guy, but Couturier is a pretty good all-around guy. Probably do a little bit of each. And again, that's who's going to be the big, a little bit of an X factor for him as far as if he's going to get his fair shot and not fair shot, but extra ice and extra chances like that from Torts. So, it's a little worrisome that he put up something in the mid 40s with maybe 4 or 5 points on the power play is all. That's certainly an interesting. Ratio. You really wouldn't see that, that you put up that without having a little more success on the power play. So he's going to have to find that success and find his role and find his spot on the power play. And Tort's going to have to help him get there too. But that's the only reason. That's the only way he's going to get 65 or 70. And again, I think that has a lot to do with Couturier being in the way, maybe.
Right. Exactly. And I think part of that too, and we've touched on this before, that like the power play has to be better. I mean, you can't be 3 years in a row in the later stages of the league and around 32. I think the past 2 years it's been so. It just can't happen. But switching gears, the Flyers, they made a couple of changes in hockey operations. I actually wrote an article about this last week. Was it? Yeah, last week. A lot of different things here, Mike. Just to kind of start off, Bobby Clark, Paul Holmgren, Bill Barber, they're still kind of involved. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the fans kind of not wanting those guys around. I have a different opinion on that. Bob Murray, he kind of comes in. He is a former general manager of the Ducks. He was hired as a senior advisor. I was told personally, and I wrote this in the article, that Jonesy was the one who had hired Bob Murray. Danny Heatley comes in as a pro scout. That was mentioned a couple months back by Charlie O'Connor, who's formerly of The Athletic. Greg Chase, who worked with Danny Briere in Maine with the Maine Mariners of the ECHL, he comes in as a pro scout along with Danny Heatley. Daniel Tremblay, who was formerly a scout in the Q with Gatineau, is also brought in. And then Mike Eastwood, who was a former NHLer for 13 years, replaced Dave Brown as director of pro scouting. Brown is still with the Flyers. He's just in a lesser role. And then John Chapman and Al Hill, they both retired. They were long scouts with the Flyers for a while. So just any kind of thoughts on these moves?
Yeah, no, it's you start with a couple of guys in retirement. Happened. Same thing happened with Red Wings a couple of years ago when Eisman came in. Guys like Mark Howe retired. Um, there was another guy, Glenn McCoskey, retired. There's a few guys that move around. It seems like whenever there's a transition, the newer guy's going to bring in a few guys. Mike Eastwood, I know, is a Western guy. He's known Jonesy a long time, and so there's an element of trust there. And obviously, he's been in the game.
It's a good connection, yeah.
Dave Brown's, an awesome human being. As a pro scout, we see him in our alumni stuff, and he's just a real good guy. And at the end of the day, there's guys getting older too a little bit. And they might not want to be on the road as much and making that commitment, because it is a really hard commitment to be on the road that much. So I think all this is like pretty natural, and there's always transition every year, and guys come and go, and guys get added, and guys are shifting around and stuff. And I saw like Brian Boucher, somebody's got to fill Jonesy's spot on TV.
I was just about to ask you about that. Yeah.
TV, who's done a really nice job on a national level. I thought it's been very good at a national level. So there's always something. It's chess pieces, right? Somebody moves, and then people start moving around in spots. So it's all. The game never stays the same. Organizations never stay the same. Guys move around, they tweak and stuff like that. And Bob Murray will be a great add. He's very active and a younger guy in the game that's been around a while. And there's still something to be said for a lot of experience. You can't go out and get new guys and guys who think they're going to reinvent the game a little bit. There still is a lot of experience in knowing people and how to get answers and knowing who they trust. They have a broad, guys have been around, they have a broad network around the league. And so if they want an answer, they want to know about something, they can make a phone call or two and get to it. So that's always a good thing versus always having new guys trying to find their way. And they offer new blood and new energy for sure. But, still there's value and experience there.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. I think the one thing that's to keep in mind is that, there's so much experience that they're bringing in, and it's not just, guys that are former Flyers. It's, guys like you said, like, in Mike Eastwood's case, guys that kind of know Jonesy from Western Michigan, stuff like that. They're trying to add all these different things. And I think it's a good thing because, you're adding in every area. And again, it's guys that, it's guys you're familiar with and how you want to, run your hockey team. And I think it's one of the smart things that we've been doing, because I think in the past couple of years, at least you've seen it a bit in the NHL. It's like either a team goes and hires guys that are, former alumni and stuff like that, like we've done in recent years, or they go in a different route, kind of like we did with Chuck Fletcher, and, hiring a guy that's from a completely different organization. And it seems like there's like a kind of, 50-50 split in the middle with that.
Sure. And don't equate like being familiar and having trust in a guy and bringing them in like with nepotism or something like that. I mean, it's, the guys they bring in are super qualified and
right.
And they know what they're doing.
That's a great point.
Again, there are some things you can get versus bringing in a guy you don't know at all.
Right.
There's a lot of hoops you got to jump through to say, okay, I dig this guy. You're going on a couple interviews or whatever, and you call a few people and you build a reputation. You have a definite feel for what a guy is going to be like. But there is something to be said for the networking, and this whole business is a big network. It's a big network, and guys that know each other and they resources and trust each other and get answers and get opinions on things, even outside organizations. They talk very, amongst trust and amongst colleagues and all that. So it's an interesting thing. There's a reshuffle every year, and every team does it. Every team gets 4 or 5 different repositions, and whether some of that is by performance or some is by like guys stepping back and getting older, and some have health issues. Some have health issues at home. They're been doing it for 30 years, and this seems like a good jumping off point, or whether they're kind of coaxed to the door a little bit too. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay. Switching gears, rookie camp, coming up this week. I'm very excited for this. I'm like itching for this. It's insane. Rookie camp is coming. There is a bunch of kind of news and kind of stuff around this. The roster did come out. Also, the rookie games are this weekend. There's going to be practices all throughout the week. Just for those listening and whether from Twitter or YouTube, Facebook, whatever, I will be at rookie camp and, pretty much the entire week. But the roster, goaltenders, all that type of stuff. I will kind of get into this a little bit. Just my kind of curious kind of where you see it, because we talked about Forrester last week as one of, kind of the main topics, and where his development could be and kind of where he could be, as the season kind of progresses and at least through main camp. But as for someone who, worked in the AHL a long time and obviously played, a long time too, like where do you kind of see rookie camp and how did you kind of take that in like as a player as well?
Well, back in our day, they played 2 rookie games, right? And then there were games that were just like you couldn't even finish the games. Like everybody was fighting. It was like there were like 2 guys left on the bench. I think eventually, I don't know if it was with kind of conjunction, maybe with 2004 or I don't know. The GMs kind of got together and said we can't even evaluate the game because it's just everybody trying to fight everybody. So
right, just to make a spot.
Tough, and then guys are getting injured and breaking a hand and. The one I played, I only played one of them, and it was against Toronto. And I mean, it was like in Kitchener, Ontario, or something. And Steve Webb, who ended up playing for the Islanders, broke his his hand in a fight. He fought like 2 or 3 times. And, it's just like you can't even get 30 seconds of play without something happening. So
right.
Well, like moving it now, maybe it's conjunction of the game and stuff like that. They are way more productive. My time in Detroit, we'd go to Traverse City, and we had actually a round robin. Then COVID kind of knocked that down. So there's only 4 or 5 teams there. They just kind of play each other once. There is some value in playing games. Like Philadelphia's going to play Friday, Saturday. Guys get tired a little bit, so it kind of loses. I almost see them going Friday, Saturday, and then maybe Monday or something like that again with a day off. But playing back-to-back games, I get that with travel and just getting it done pretty quick. And I know there's these practice and then 2 games and then 3 practices after.
Yeah,
getting guys like rested again for training camp and ready for their main camp. But
right.
They're certainly really interesting. Like Kenny Allen, GM of the Red Wings, and he would come in and announce to the team. He'd be like, "There's, when there were 6 teams there, he'd be there were 25, 30 players in this tournament playing in this Traverse City tournament that will play in the NHL this year." And as recently you've had Mo Sider in Detroit, Lucas Raymond, guys like that who basically did well in the rookie camp and then went right up. And
right.
So it gives guys, some of the guys that are Forster and those guys who are on the edge of kind of making a team, they get to be the captain of this team. They get to be the go-to guy. They get to be the focus of the team and who the coach is going to put the first line. And you get a
good point.
You get to play penalty killing. The older guys, those guys on the board, the tournament kind of revolves around them as players a little bit, which is good. And how much stock you put into it, I don't know. You like it when you love it when one of your better players who you're hoping does well, or hoping to do well, does well. And you're always kind of a little bit, well, here's one of our star players didn't have a great rookie tournament. You're always kind of like, well, it's just a rookie, and it's just there's different levels of interest to it in it too,
Exactly.
So on the way up as players, somewhat it's more of a proving ground where you're fighting for a contract, and then other guys like, man, I'm just doing this to get through the main camp, So guys are in different boats a little bit.
Right, exactly. And again, I think it's a great point because when you look at the roster, I mean, again, there's some invites that have, come from camp in these past couple of years. They've been coming from development camp and then end up getting an invite to rookie camp. Example, Jacob Gaucher, these past 2 years, he's come out of the queue. He's been at development camp and rookie camp these past 2 seasons. So he's been getting invites. Some guys, they take it like it's kind of their last chance to make the NHL. Gaucher specifically, in his case, he went undrafted. And then, guys like Forrester, guys like Dean Oye, you have other guys that are kind of in the mix too. Guys like Emil Andre that could be trying to, like you said, end up making the team out of camp, or at least having a good start into Flyers training camp coming up in about a week. And then again, there's still more invites and some other guys that could just be playing for the Phantoms, Reading, stuff like that too. So I think again, I think it's a good point because there's different, interest levels to it. Like you mentioned, I think even for fans too, like for me, like I'm really curious to see how Forrester does because with development camp, you couldn't see it as much. I think, well, he was banged up a little bit. I believe if I remember correctly, I might be wrong though.
Guys are a little closer to like game shape now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of it too, Mike, is the fact that, he's the type of guy that you're looking to just kind of, take the bull by the horns and really kind of show what he can do and kind of prove that he doesn't really need to play in these anymore type of thing. And so that's one of the guys I'm kind of looking at here with these couple of games.
Yeah, and I mean, if the staff had their way, they do want to see him dominate the games, which is hard, right? Because you're really, I mean, your peers, the guys that you're going against are pretty good players too.
Right.
And so it's again, you want to, these guys want to get their reps in. You love to see them, goal or two, in these games and play great and and do that. You don't have to put up 6 points in 2 games or something like that, but just good play. Look like you're a standout player a little bit, and show your speed. Beat some guys wide and make some plays, have the puck a lot. Do that sort of thing to be noticed. Whether it turns into points or not, you can't necessarily control and just playing 2 games, but you want to see it like having good habits. They want to see you look stronger, win your battles in the corners. Look as if you're like you're a man amongst boys. A little bit. And
look engaged.
And just look better than you did it last year at this point. A couple of steps quicker, step or 2 quicker, stronger in the corners. Bully way around, and if you have to, win your battles and make smart plays and show that you wanna make the team. And it's hard for younger players because you don't really have that urgency. Like I'm trying to get through it. Like playing to get through it is way different than coming out and trying to be the best player. And
for sure, yeah.
Like it or not, unfortunately, it kind of matters that you really you just want to do your best as a player to leave a good taste in everybody's mouth. I mean, It's pretty simple as it gets. Do whatever it is they brought you there to do and do it well and leave a good taste in their mouth.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. One last thing. I did just see this right before we ended up going live here, maybe like an hour or so before. And I'm curious kind of what you think about this. The NHL is open to moving back to Atlanta for the 3rd time. You got any thoughts on this?
Well, I think, they keep fighting the Southeast. It's such a huge market. I just don't know, the infrastructure's there. You got the arena, you got the arena complex, you got like everything around it. It feels like it wants to work. It should work. Is it? It's a better setup than Nashville ever was. It's such a big market. I mean, it's a top 5 market probably in the States.
And Nashville's such a huge fan base too.
Yeah, and you got to have something there, and it's just, you feel like that city would just be like, it should be a great place to play. You got suburbs, a ton of money, huge corporations there, really, really cool arena. They have like opera boxes all on one side. All their boxes are on one side of the arena. It's a really kind of a unique setup. And they just stack them. It's like it's like an old theater. They're like stacked on top of each other. Really cool setup.
Yeah.
And it's just you're right there in downtown Atlanta. You just feel like it should work. And I don't know, like trying to keep fighting them in Phoenix or put them in Atlanta. You got to feel like Atlanta would want to work. Jeez, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it should work. Really, of all towns, of all cities, I feel like Atlanta should work. Really.
Are there any stories you have playing in Atlanta with the Thrashers?
Well, just that. I don't know.
I didn't play on the spot, but
yeah. It was always kind of like they weren't that good at the time, and it was like it was hard. I didn't mind going down there. Like it was super easy to play there as an athlete. Everybody just stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. There's like one team, basketball stayed there. It was a busy rink. There was basketball teams there, hockey teams there. You just went down the corner, and I don't know. It just everybody was downtown. I just don't think that. I don't understand why it wouldn't work. And I think guys like playing there. They like playing in the rink and stuff. I don't know why it wouldn't work. I don't get it. But and their teams are okay. They're struggling, but we always had fun going down there. And you're just it was kind of an easy trip. An easy, nice place to play. It's always a little bit warmer, and I think as a player, I didn't mind going down there and playing at all. It's easy.
Right.
I don't know. Good stories. I don't know, but. I don't know, but it was a good place to play. You felt like you're always going to have a decent night there. You're going to have some chances to score a little bit. It felt like because of where the organization was at the time, but so you're always kind of happy to play there.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. Mike, that's all I got for you. Thanks again, as always good talking with you and hearing your insight. And we'll kind of kick this back up next week. All right.
All right, Chris, you got it, buddy. Have a great week.
All right, you too, Mike. I'll see you.
Yeah.